Ola sota simja tamje de top jalana ma cheba sanje ya komaran boche chine ja tobacha de de me janju semba labjana sushi de nyamsu langbo langwala shingo shimbala tugo le tuje shu mano wa chko tu an kasu baba den gese chimbo shiwala gese junju with the teshe timbi ningi samsamcha.
So we set our motivation to do whatever we possibly can to attain the peerless state of enlightenment. And to know, to attain this state, we must perfect all the trainings on the Bodhisattva path. To perfect those, we have to practice them perfectly. And to be able to do that, we have to understand what they are. And so it is with this in mind that we are here to listen to the king of mind training texts, is known as by the great master Shantideva today.
Doing the social set up with the competition. And then they means Rangi Tunga Nankala, more Rangi Tijaza Lama Yamba, Naba Tabula to Jechimbo, Lama Tuga on set up, and then the Lama Tuga on board, and the castle the Sheji Chani. And because yes, I knew Yam Shagat and a 2 second number, Kula Chu, Omega Dodge so. What I will do to the Dembaja, Mosumbo Kora, Rangi Tunga Nankali, something what in a combacha.
And likewise, as normally we do, we try to perfectly set up and maintain the merit field for the duration of the teaching, which includes, in fact, our own guru, but in the aspect of Shakyamuni Buddha, who is there in the space in front. He is this one who is greatly compassionate and skilled in means. He has one face and 2 hands. With the right hand in the earth-touching mudra, the left hand in the meditative equipoise mudra, holding an alms bowl filled with nectar. And we really feel that the Buddha is actually present.
And the Ranga Tagoda, and it's Sedi Rangi Pamane Jebe, and it's Pamane Jebeta, Pamesemje, and it's Kaso the Chig Rangi Leg Teve Onge, Ditona Ranko, Rantone, Dikibo Megig, what the Tamil task and what did it Daniel Passum? Donna comes to get Simja Tamja, Dori to go Simja and Masawa Meva, because of the years something what in the Kumacha.
And in the space all around us, starting with our parents of this life and moving out to all of those who we regard as, we regard as friends, or those who are neutral to us, and those who, for some reason, we have no good connection with, or we find that they, create conflict in our minds, and indeed we create conflict in their minds, otherwise the term labeled as the enemies. That we visualize all of the realms, all of the beings of the 6 realms of existence without exception all around us.
What in the compassion, what is it? And the Tanja and the Casote, Zeta, which reduces to Noshua Nabang, so Minashin Namju, you can Lama to be on Bokusun to you in detention. What is the compassion? Takanja, then the Lama to be on body, and the Chivo, you go on cover. Jamba armor to a home over Yigasum just set up, compassion. Then the two home over the part of Mebatron, and the Shingan never. Ishiba only the Java Chanta, Ishiba the Lama to be on number Chanta, only on the two Lama Chata, Mikio wicked in what in the compassion.
And that's we to see all these beings of all the 6 realms surrounding us, and even though they are the denizens of their particular realm, they are able to cognize this situation with a human intelligence. And so, like us, they are able to appreciate the qualities of the enlightened body, speech, and mind in the space in front of us. They also can see that the Buddha is marked by the 3 syllables, Om at the crown, A at the throat, and Hung at the heart center. That from that Hung, light rays, countless light rays emanate, going out into the pure realms, inviting the wisdom beings and the empowering deities from there. The wisdom beings dissolve into the central figure, and the empowering deities confer the nectar of empowerment, some of which then overflows at the crown, producing spontaneously the figure of Akshobhya.
지금 랑게 되는다 무슨 거라 유효성서 오다 랑게 조사 집장께 대도 무슨 거라 유효성 대내 투배 온거지 아니 다 남주 시번의 시전에 지금 군자 소리를 공부 마시 맞잖아 문에 거라 손보거라 유효성서 아니 대 투배 온거지 아니 지금 남주 흉내 송환의 신전에 아니 지 가서대 아니 지금 주변으로 봐 타야 봐 아니 가서대 가서 감소로 봤잖아. 안 심지가 규모면 미버 좋아지면 배 지금 추진이 시작시 샤마도 이제 좀 되겠지. 뭐 아니 가셔 저 양가셔 주 심지가 된전 수도 해야지. 저도 나서 봐서 배 시고지게 딱 간자 저 재생 차부 요 되겠지. 뭐 된지 공부시 공부시 어떻게
So also that the atmosphere with all around the merit field of the Buddha in front is that something that is really present for us, and that they're there very much as part and witness to our efforts to purify negativity, to accumulate positive merit. That the Buddha is actually very much there, not as a kind of a statue or a simple representation, but it's a very busy, vibrant situation where you have emanations coming and going constantly, going out into the 3 realms of existence and ripening the minds of those who are already ripened partially, and then readying those minds to be ripened. And then returning back again. And this is continuing all kind of 24/7, a very busy thoroughfare of activities.
어디를 공부하셔야지 어디 들을 배 모습 보거나 어디를 유효성자 저는 아니 어디를 아니 저거 랑이가 다 지금 가서도 아마 도배 뭐그 아니 저 구성도 그 연대 점심 병원에 아니 저거 가서도 그 전에 아니 저 당에다 봐 이쪽에 또 뭔데 이거 요번 신제를 랑가 타고 요 막이 진짜 막 심지어 탐제가 오다 딘는 신제네 오다 다음에도 이쪽에 또 뭔데 그때 봐 유연되겠지.
And so with our contemplation of these activities, and indeed recalling the great qualities of the Buddhist body, speech, and mind, etc., that we are inspired to have this pure faith, this manifest faith, and this faith of conviction. And likewise with all the beings of the 6 realms of existence, likewise inspired to generate the pure faith, the manifest faith, and the faith of conviction also.
아니 되네 안지가 도바투베 온베기 아니 지금 연대 도야고는 어느 대화 아니 심정게 아니 동에게 나주 삼로다네 아니 텔미스베 닝제 아니 닝제디 자네 아니 대화 대두게 잡아 어디를 공부시 아니 쟤네 아니 심지어 다자 아니 저거 대화다 대외 주다 되나 지모로 대화 주제 대화 쇼지 동에다 동에 주다 되나 지모로 대화 주제 대화 쇼지 대화 타기 지금 아니 대다다자 동해매베 대화의 민전나 집어로 민저와 주체 민저와 쇼치 민저와 다게 제가 되다지는 라마 투영배 징길랍도 수 어떤데 공부시 제대 공부시는 다 근데 공부시도 다 근데 용알라야 아니 니리 차단의 대화 좀 맞으나 다 거의 탑매버보다 용담 매버라 되게 그 가셔도 니리 차단 온게 아니 다다데 동해의 대화의 대화 아니 대화 주도 미저와티 용해 걸으면 도 애는 일이 차단의 제가 단념은 내가 치마로 내가 교체 내가 쇼체 내가 다게 지금 대다지는 걸 라마 투병배 징길라도 선대 제발할 때는 라마 투병배 꿀래 비제는 거 왜서도 제발 규인바는 란다란 게 타고 되고 선제 다 저게다 기본에 마셔는 토마메가 뒤바에 캐바도야 체메시가 또 받지 말 받아줘야 뒤바에 나니니 된치수 섬사셔 아니 되네 양조 선대 제발할 때는 아니 뒤제 다 당보대 뒤제 가보 니바데 뒤제 세부소로 지금 공부하시나 아니 세부 봐할 때는 알아서 심제 탐제 줄라 아니 체메시가 또 받게 받자 알아서 심제 탐제 줄라 계속 선저 어떤 공부하자 어떻게
And so there are indeed the view of all the sentient beings around us, appreciating the qualities of enlightenment. We have that sense of faith, which is, in our mind, also in our contemplation of the suffering of all the sentient beings all around us. We have the idea of the concept of compassion for all those sentient beings. And in wanting them to experience all happiness, of course, we have that sense of love, that sense of affectionate love arising in our minds as well. And so we think how wonderful if all sentient beings had happiness and the causes of happiness. May this be the case. May I be the one to do so. O Guru Deity, please bless me to make this so. And how wonderful if all sentient beings were free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May this be the case. May I be the one to do it. O Guru Deity, please bless me to make it so. And how wonderful if all sentient beings have the happiness that knows no suffering and the excellent bliss of liberation. May this be the case. I will see to it that it is the case. O Guru Deity, please bless me to make this so. And of course, in contemplating on these beautiful, immeasurable thoughts, we are aware that when we are still kind of like trapped in this discriminating attitude of mind, holding some close and others distant, that we really cannot have a firm basis for developing that immeasurable compassion, immeasurable love, immeasurable joy. And so we also have to really entreat the Guru Buddha to help us to think how wonderful it would be if all sentient beings abided in equanimity, free from attachment and anger, that hold some close and others distant. May this be the case. May I be the one to do so. O Guru Deity, please bless me to make this so. So, and as a result of our heartfelt supplication, the descending nectar light begins to come, this powerful light coming from the heart center of the Guru Buddha in the space in front, entering into ourselves and all the sentient beings all around us in the form of a powerful, pure white light, purifying all negativities that we have accumulated since beginningless time, and especially all the obstacles to our being able to develop a realization of the four immeasurable thoughts. And then secondly, the nectar light comes again, this time with a golden yellow tint, and this time it kind of endows ourselves and all other sentient beings with the potential to realize the four immeasurables in our own minds.
어떤지 도박해봐지 가서 다 태소매봐지 막 계속 삼사 어떤 공부하잖아 아니 거저 바자 개봐지 샤야기다 샤운거와 어떤데 맞아 어떤지 공부시 어떤지 아니 단다다 다 가서 배워야 돼 지금 준주고 숭니에 대해 준주고 싱글라 퇴삼지에 대해 어느 또 그것을 믹스디 미유디 다 심지 탐제도 산제 고마 토발라 다 이제 자주가 셈마지만 타비요 말이야 되게발라 줘발라 그래 줘발라발라 딜랍단 신고래 신고도 아니 대중들 다 내게 오다 된지 공부 시에전에 아니 라마 도병 뭐 검시배 간에다 셈절라 닝제 라마 도병 볼로 대봐 왔다 대봐 디나네 다 그지 원도게 대봐 다외 대봐 이시게 대봐 원도게 대봐 다 다외 대봐 이시 대봐 시대 거 근데지 요바 디 때문에 다 나야 심지 탐정 그 병을 주베 쳐도 또 맞춰 유튜브 고마마다 토바 찌기 디 쳐도 얘기해서 디다 원도게 대봐 들어왔다 어딘데 고마 시에는 세체
And so we have to, really have no doubt that, this has been an extremely effective practice for us right now, that a very powerful imprint has been laid down on our minds, and that this is not just something that we are doing casually, but something very, very sincere. And that here, definitely in preparation for listening to and reflecting on the content of the Bodhisattva's way of life, that we are really in the proper position. We really understand how crucial it is to generate that mind of enlightenment in order to be able to attain enlightenment, in order to benefit all sentient beings. And we really feel that the kind of necessity of really developing the mind of enlightenment and training with that as our motivation. And of course, in order to do that well, we have to understand the instructions relative to the mind of enlightenment. And that, again, with that, that in mind, with keeping that in mind and keeping our awareness of the Buddha there. So we have our compassionate mind there in the background towards all the sentient beings all around us. And we have this sense of faith for the qualities of enlightenment represented by the Buddha in front. And this is the pure faith, the faith of conviction, which both act as a basis for the manifest faith. And so this manifest faith is really our capacity to really see ourselves as the ones generating the qualities that we have so much aspiration to achieve. We really see ourselves embodying, the mind of enlightenment and proceeding therein. And so with that understanding, we are here to listen to a teaching from the Bodhisattva's way of life.
아니 대간데 지금 가서도 지금 가서 내가 소소 삼로 당원에 시 당에 되게 돼 아니 로아가 지금 심제에 다스 동에게 나서래 다가는 시 체매식이 공부시다래 아니 지금 다가는 시 와다 되게 그가 아니 심제 탐제도 산제 공부토베치도 준주고 싶은 얘기 삼사지에 지금 소소를 내가 지금 동반이게 고아대 삼로 당 되게 그가 유대는 뭐 좀 똑바로 받아 잡을래 삼사 안 되게 그가 그래서 가짜지 지금 장주가 샘당 동리도배 시람니기다 지금 가서 심배 토네 다 중간에 주마마인 바래 주마마인 바는 가서 레탕 볼라 그 용에 거라 요 말때 이네 주민의 쪽에 강투도게 되게 심배 토네 아니 거치 주년세 지에래 냠내 지에래 토상고서 근데 지금 뭐 있네 지다 디 지스 맞지네 디 누가 요 맞지네 지다 시우게 좀 봐 가서는 산제가 추르 디나날 특바 첨비 추겠다 세트서의 장주가서 동리도배 시랍기 동리도배 시랍 디니게 돈에다 누바병 보고도 지다 지게 가서 대바지에다 아니 지 가서래다 가자제 지게 가서래 지게 진바다에 수바 공면 아니 지게 준비 소비에 그거 아니 잠바데 니제 거 출로 용서 잡으러 와 잡으러 와. 이내 다 장주가 셈다 돈이 도배 시랍스키 디 지스메도나 디 니바데 데베도나 다 지원도 안 고쳐봐도 쇼와. 그러와. 아니 저 타바다 탐제 개배 줄을 줬다 못줘서 디 개바 쇼고도 와. 안 되게 된 거죠. 뭐 저베도나 아니 그거 말아봐서 그거 심토가 제티. 개침보다도 와.
And so our thinking here is informed by, really how we are together with all these sentient beings who have suffering in all the different realms of existence, and so we have that compassion, and that also we have this appreciation of the four immeasurable thoughts, and really how wonderful it would be to live a life with that kind of as integrated into our lives, that we have this awareness of how important an opportunity it is here to have a chance to listen to these precious instructions from the Bodhisattvas, the way of life, all of which is, is me ready to do this, ready to listen, ready to have this, all of this informing my motivation, but also that I am completely empty of inherent existence. I am not in any way objectively established. And so you're bringing that mind of enlightenment together with emptiness, the wisdom of emptiness, as combined together as much as we possibly can to infuse our mind with that combination of the mind of enlightenment and the wisdom of emptiness. And it's kind of like really, as much as we can in our learning, in our listening, and in our contemplation, to make that, that kind of very much kind of central to every moment as we listen here. Very, very important that it's not just a case of doing what is the right thing from part of Buddhism or the Mahayana aspect of Buddhism, but to understand how this kind of wisdom of emptiness combined with the mind of enlightenment is what really distinguishes, is really unique to this tradition. And that, we have in terms of faith, in generosity, in ethical conduct, in teachings on even love and compassion, there's quite a lot of similarity with other traditions. But this power, which is kind of infused within the combined motivation of the mind of enlightenment and emptiness, is really quite unique and quite a distinguishing factor. And so we keep this in mind as well, that these are the causes that can lead to the state of enlightenment, of the omniscient state of enlightenment. And that's why it's so special to try as much as we can to maintain that motivation throughout this teaching.
我的这，老多的我做其他的这个告诉的这个看对节的，大概呢先给这个告诉的这亚沙耶的。江州对耶的，大概恰菜耶的，过了啥耶的，我是叫我做住这个药吧，住这个药的，因为这周边搞了因为因呢，我打这个康图都给，你告诉的讲究个什么节，康图这个东西都被写了个什么节。 아니 저기 가리 제와나 랑게 타고도 막긴 그 심지 탐제 유여 삼사제디 냠도 지금 유여 삼사제 칼라제 세와네 칼라마상는 거주 쳐바제 피고요래 쳐바 피어 걸래 랑게 세디 파마네 제베 아니 심지 탐제 냠도 아니 쳐바 피고 유여 삼사제네 와 쳐바 피고 유여 삼사제 딱 이제 저거 랑디 가서도 다 구잡소로 제네 디가 건가 그 가서도 구잡소로 제네 랑게 타고도 심지 탐제 냠도 쳐바 피고 유여 삼사제 아니 고수스라는 거 세대 파만 했잖아. 그래서 뭐죠? 니에서도 니슈도 소소 세대 파마를 와. 다 뒤전에 아니 생각하면 파마 뒤가마서도 아니 디심제 탐제다 파마들 저와지 차되기도 와. 아니 강가 냠도 전에 피고요 상사자. 아니 피와를 때네 아니 조직 겨와서다 제바게 아니 그 랑게 초바데 시에수 삼사자. 아니 시에발을 때네 아니 권하죠 투규를 대화통 대외 동바대 대통령수에 이시 계속 삼사 어디에 공부 자바이나 아니 랑라 폐연 빠도 매바 사고라 빠도 매바 사 아니 때네 초바디에 어느 어디 가서 문에 저 조직에 왔어야 제가 최네 아니 징길 납제네 아니 랑게 규마도바 두와 가서 다 규마도바디 düne 아니 가서 다 그네 살랑거 똑바게 그 누가 켜봐지 샤수 선선 어디네 공부신 제바이나 아니 칼라사와 양제네 다시 개월 납치 못 주베들 용되기도 어디네 공부시
So in all activities, really, whether we're engaged in saying our prayers or accumulating mantras or going on doing prostrations or doing circumambulations, that's all of this, we should try to, as much as possible, infuse our actions through the motivation, the twin motivation of the mind of enlightenment and the wisdom of emptiness. And to really also include all sentient beings in these activities, that we feel we are all doing this together, we're all in this together. So for example, when we're eating and making the offering, that we are doing so, together with, say, all our parents, the parents of this life or the previous life. And indeed, when we go back to beginningless time and countless rebirths, that all sentient beings have acted in that role for us. And so we kind of are making this offering all together, and that and really kind of like imagining too that the Buddhas to whom we are offering are pleased with that offering, that there's this sense of bliss which combines with voidness, and we abide in the wisdom of non-dual bliss and voidness. And it's kind of really important that we can do this and understand that by being able to do so, like these activities with this mindfulness, that it creates countless merit and beautiful blessing for us to be able to realize the import of the paths and the grounds to enlightenment. And so kind of really it's about making the maximum, making the most of every moment.
What do you get? I said, "Sure, love John, che, and Shung Chimo Mongboji love John, che, and Niri Jordan de, and Chig, Chola che to Yege, and Gugab Yawati, and Chemato Balhawa in the Pumburwa. That Soso Sana, Donna, Denata, the Mambuchi, Chola Gure, you can ring Mambuchungutwa. That Gure, you give me did Jutuba Mazap, Lapchimbo Jutu Tola, and love John Javati, the Pungo. Tipungo, that Tipumado, and 6 Tobo Mamboje, because of the Chajuga Samda, Tony Tobe, Sharada, Sada, Lang, Nesu Mamboji, what you say. And the Shimbade, Nanu, Marazo, Kiwasa, Gugab Nalola, Beju, Tamatoba, and then Love John Data, Tamboshanata, Pemado, Sola Charo Chigua. In a Pasha, the Kibaja Shavar, in a that quarter, was the Beju Tansa, Yogan together, can't talk to the Beju Tang to Bachen. Tang to Bajavina, and also love to Simba data when I done a Chicago, cook up some to go to one. Cook up some tati, Chalazo Manoa Chedi Kitchen.
And so, we are in a situation where many of us have kind of like, really studied for a long time. We have read so many different Dharma books and texts and so on. And that, we need to be able to, actually see how we are integrating all of this into every moment of our lives. And that, it's so important that when we are, whatever we are doing, we do not leave all that behind. It's so easy for it just to remain as words or just to remain as knowledge, dry knowledge on a page. But we have to make this a living tradition for ourselves. And that means that we are really aware of how to transform each moment into what is something really, really precious, into a Dharma moment, into a practice moment. And that's so important that, of course, by studying and so on and attending teachings and reading the Dharma, that we are laying down very positive imprints. But we have to understand that this is an extraordinary opportunity that we have, not just to leave it as words on a page, but to actually integrate it into every moment of our lives, to imbue that moment with these thoughts of the mind of enlightenment and emptiness and so on. And it's really about transforming what we expect of ourselves in the course of our kind of Dharma career, as it were, and see this as a moment or as an opportunity to be seized and to be used.
And it's the permanent Godzujana, Taiwan Magasim, Tam, Jaganamdo, Jigu, so the Dichedo, that because they got Tumodo and Jigu, some such an Rata Dichedo, Jigu, some so what they go by Chatubaina, and Chatubainata, Jigu Rangi Chede, and because of the
So we have to kind of really, as it were, to up the ante for ourselves. That in whatever we are doing, if we're doing pilgrimage or any other, externally kind of activity, that we see ourselves doing with our parents together, with our parents, all sentient beings who have acted in this world for us, and that we're doing so in common. And this way, we are increasing the quality of the spiritual action that we are doing at that moment, and that we really are kind of wanting to make the most out of every opportunity like this.
Until some time ago, the Pama said that Dembare, Mare, what is some time said the den that Demer, Kayaka, your mare, Chuba people, Namto Pugu, some such a Rua, and Rata said the Pama Samo, Sarangaman, and Pama, Namto Pugu, some such an what I can just do solemn sound, what in the chat.
And so not to think that, my parents are past and that this is not relevant. No, thinking that they are together here with you, engaging in this practice, that this life's parents, the parents of previous lives and of all previous lives, that's an opportunity to be able to accumulate positive merit on their behalf, as well.
Teacher, I tell him Masimba Junga in a social leg, Jawashu Sambo Java in social then the church to a lieutenant, and a social city Pamani, the Jawashu Sambo Java in and tell him Masimba Junga in a dear Kiwa Yale that and they like Kabatende Jugre. Kabatende Jugre. What I think on this Shibeton, because was a lender killing the Rua. Lender killing into or Tendek near to Shibeton, the Pamaga Yakshudrua.
And so we have to understand this because we accept the law of cause and effect, and so it follows that we have this incredibly the best possible connection with our parents. And so whether they are with us or not now, that connection still remains, and what we do with them in mind is something that can have a very positive effect on perhaps allowing them to have a positive rebirth and so on. And so it's kind of like really important that we do so when we are engaged in meritorious activity, that we do so alongside all of our parents since beginning this time. Kyondo tene, di nyebo dame tobe sherata, ane chige kowa de dunga ge rangshin tona ten, taba da tamche kemba dondo nyegen chi yinba yina, ane da ngune zhane ge, ting sabu ne samlo dana da, kondro sikande yongsa megen sol chire. Yina da nga zo, ting sabu samlo ma dana zan, kondro sago yore, nyomo kige yore, chig chige yorba. Ba ting sabu samlo dana, ane ko yongsa megen chi. 제저 다들 차트요. 거다 띵 사보 삼로 땅 마도 봐체. 아는 거서 렌데 켈레나 렌데데 협아 협이지. 제 비다고 싶다 요 말에. 아니 겨왕같이 켈렌 거 대야 비다고 싶다 요 말에. 다든데 치한데 아는 거서 녀몽 그 렌도도 와. 다음에 겨왕같이 되고네 전에 자 아니 레미 제바 제바 취미 사와스긴다. 근데 내수 망고질 삼로 땅나 콘도 사사 메겐데. Rua, and Simjet Ranley Shen Javas the Samla Yagustana, Kondo Sasa Medic, Rani Jes and Kuba Kungo, Shenaz Yende Kunji, she is against the Winnet and a Semdin and Yavanigan, Kondo Sasa Medic. Rua, the Kondo Sasa Ranges on a Yongudua, Doba Yomarwa.
是吧？都我有嘛的，我到底这个什么当然，我用上面这个是，是，我的是，他的那因为在什么做，什么做公用上，主把到我写完简单上传媒的关的，早完了。在他们家衔接网，第一网给电网面，在他现在就代表我不过了传媒加深。
And so that, so indeed, if we have thoroughly accepted the fact of the law of cause and effect, if we have understood the how we are dominated by mental afflictions and the three poisonous attitudes of attachment, aversion, and ignorance, and so on, if we see the faults therein, if we have understood the debilitating effect of self-grasping, and that we have understood that the nature of cyclic existence is one of suffering, and that if we have all this, if we really have kind of taken on all this on board and kind of living it out, then really there is no possibility of anger arising, is there? They really can't. There can't be any opportunity whereby anger will get the upper hand on us, And so it's kind of like we really have to understand this deep down. It's not just kind of a surface acceptance here we're talking about. We're talking about something saying this is really what will now inform my life. This is something that we have really thought about deep down. But because we have this kind of wishy-washy acceptance of the law of cause and effect, kind of we accept it when it suits us, or we don't have a really kind of like a doubt-free acceptance of past and future lives. And this all then just opens the door for mental affliction. It gives opportunity for mental affliction to arise. And that, we haven't really kind of like looked at the principles of karma, like, that we do not experience the result of an action if we haven't created the cause ourselves. We haven't really looked at that, or that if we have accumulated a cause, it simply does not disappear of its own accord. And these kind of principles that we have to take fully on board, and that if we have really taken on board the look at the faults of self-cherishing versus the wonderful qualities of cherishing others, of considering a love for others over and above that which we have for ourselves, and there you can't see, if you really live that you can't see much opportunity for anger, can you? And that if we really understood that, we can understand that anger itself is an expression of self-cherishing, isn't it? There's absolutely no doubt about that this is where anger has this thing of considering my opinion, myself, to be so important, that this is what it really feeds anger as well. And so it's a question of really not just thinking about all of these issues more deeply, but really embodying them and living them out in ourselves. So with that, we turn to the next outline in the text itself, which is related to verse number 31. And the outline states that through understanding that all beings are like an illusion, that we can see how anger is inappropriate. And so this reads, verse number 31. Hence, everything is governed by other factors, which in turn are governed by others. And in this way, nothing governs itself. Having understood this, I should not become angry with phenomena that are like apparitions.
我听得见，他感觉就，忽然这个告诉了，这个足够做的，第一，你把这个都是个的，下上面这个其他，和旧件忙不就错的， Tichungede dilatene, tichungede dilatene, tichungede dilatene 용할고 야야 또그 망부질을 잡아 차 되기도. 망부질을 잡아 차 되기도. 망부질을 잡아 차 되기도. 아니 학도도 랑게 삼로 당 졸래 잡아 차 되기도. 다 딘gel을 소소 레사바제 용거래. 아니 딜라테네 용거래. 아니 되네 야야야 저들 마리바 온게 레사 들어 레사야 온게 다 들으시 용하죠. 아니 다는 아니 디 전에 다 깨망부질을 들래 중간에 망부질을 때네 디 제바 인상 디 용되게 디 제바 인상 디 용되게 디 제바 인상 디 용되게 어느 담아들라 어느 소소 삼로 당당 돈내질 되기도 와 근데 임바 인상 가서 쉬어 봐 녀모 깨라 당부터 소소게 녀모 바차 마방바 여바체 아니 되네 아니 가서데 가서래 코유스그래 컨디션도 여바체 아니 다디 간다는 아니 삼로 소소게 최다 미tum바 삼로 당와하차 수민게 삼로 당와 디솜라 되네 아니 녀모디 깨운것도 와 콘도 깨운것도 와 되자 깨운것도 와 세단 깨운것도 와 그봐 다디는 수민게 삼로 당와 최다 미tum바
솔참 미tum바
최다 미tum바 삼로 당와 되라 되네 아니 코 그봐 그 최다 미tum바 삼로 당와 되네 다 최다 미tum바서 콘도 깨게 삼로 당와 되네 콘도 깨주에 삼로 당에 줘봐 딜라테는 어느 콘도 깨도도 되자 깨주에 삼로 당와 되네 되자 깨도도 도와 어 용도 아니 거기 삼로 당다들 라질레 되기도 와다들 된데 임바인도 와다가데 된저 망부 질라 때는 용 되기도 로다 다디 디 땅사베 갈라 아니 녀모디 깨고 되자디 콘도디 깨고도 아니 거라면 콘도 거라라다 가서다 코 제보로 와 주다께 차서 소사도 아니 콘도디 깨고도 코 라면도 와 다 라와데 가디 조스나 규이 가서 가도야 돼. 다 라와도 와. 학교도 당 지금 심박강가 초바이네 소속에 수민게 삼로 마당제 최다 tum바 삼로 땅 도바 이나 디디지 가도도 와. 단다 콘도 마사티지 가도도 와. 어다 되는 망부자 다디 까마도는 아니 콘도 콘하나 라와도 와. 다디 송 다디 좀 대대래고도 다 된다 단다들라 들어 대다 주다 제비 자와 제비에서 다 주다 제부가 자와 제발을 때네 디다 디중고도 자와 제비 뭐부 탐자 라와 매버다 뭐부 근데 집에 있는 과를 주다 제부 주다 깬 차장 주다 깬게 자와 제발을 때 차장 초저 코란 주벨라 라와 요말 라와 매버 깬 현재 원게 중앙인 버렸어 다깬 되나 양가망가마 깬 돼서 아니 된대 용해대 디가마 절도 내가 가마가마 디 온게 중에나 저부대 중앙 저부대 중미 중에 온데 다 저부 코나 중모 중 온요 마서 온매봐 주마다 다 저부대 코나다 주바서 자 주마다 주반내시 주바다고 임배서 주바대 그 주근 찔라 때는 그 주용고 열어봐 주마대 아니 저가서대 주마캔다 디우심보다 디줄라 때는 주메기다 제가 될라 때네 아니 주마대 주용고 달라라 소바 용고 열어봤다 임배나 대답을 셔바 디즈 하고 받지는 주바대 뭐부고라 초미죠 왔다 근데 임바 인사 초미자대 초미릭소 셔바 왔죠
And so this is really to move away from this thing of, when we are riled, that we kind of automatically start pointing at somebody outside of ourselves as being the culprit and the to blame, and saying that, that this is untenable, that because everything arises in dependence, and that there's no getting away from it. That that there's all karma arises in terms of independence on causes and conditions, and that there's so many conditions to everything that arises in that sense, that here that we have it can arise from that particular condition, which arose from that condition, which arose from that condition, so on and so on and so on. It'll go on kind of like endlessly. And then it comes back to, of course, ourselves and our own thinking, what we do then in response to the karmic cause that is there, and then the conditions that bring it to right, and then what is our reaction or response to that. And so it's kind of like here is where the mental afflictions can arise. And so there's kind of conditions in turn that that decide or kind of like that have an influence on whether the mental affliction will arise or not. One is that you have the imprint for mental affliction on your mind stream. And two is that there's the kind of conditions there or the environment for mental affliction to arise. And the third is then one has an incorrect attitude towards the situation. One is misreading the situation. In other words, one is already thinking to be angry. And so then at that point, then you're kind of like, you've lost the kind of a power over that situation, and that the mental affliction has taken hold. And so that means then that you're at the resultant part of that karmic path, and so it's kind of like there, the damage is done. That's the point at which you really need to focus is at the causal point to avoid those causes being laid down in the first place. That's when you still retain some power over the karmic path, and that's where you need to put a stop to the negative actions that can give rise to anger and so on, and the mental afflictions, be it anger or be it the desire or any of the other mental afflictions. And so here it's pointing this out in terms of, it's saying that the things that are brought about through the actions of cause and effect, they have no, they're not self-governed or self-powered. They arise under the influence of conditions. But it's saying that those conditions also, that they also are kind of just as kind of like unpowered or they're not self-governed in the same way, because they arise from previous conditions to that, arising in dependence on previous conditions to that, and that, and that, and so on. And that, and so whether the results arises or not, it kind of, they are kind of powerless. And so that's in the sense of it being like an illusion or like an apparition, like some magician, transforming base materials into horses and elephants. Here, this is the way it is. It's kind of lacking any, self-governing kind of like aspect to it. And so through understanding that all phenomena arise like this, like an apparition, like an illusion, and then we can see how inappropriate or anger would be in any of the situations that are mentioned.
소소라 동안 저한테 소소를 저와지 투 되기도 what did 다 이내 되게 너바게게 요 말에서 쓰기 요 말에 너바게게 요르데 이내 너바게게라 초게나 되게 말에서 뭐라 초 콘로게나 되게 말에서 뭐야 파저 너바게게 요 말에서 쓰고 요 말에 너바게게 요래 너바게게 요바 인자 아는 거죠 지금 그서데 지가서데 지금 서바 거미에다 지 연구 열와 서바 검나이나 배우 연구래 서바 먹고는 콘로게와이나 녀바사기 요래 그 너바게게 요바 인자 아는 거 지금 서바공의 국가지 연구 열어봐. 아니 다니시 콘도사의 국가지 연구 열어. 너가 지금 열어. 다 이내에 너바디게 누구 요 말했어 요 말했다. 누구 열을 때 이내에 너바딜 계gen들 콘도사나 지금 말했어. 가서 콜라랑 요 말했어. 이상 로아도 뭐도 나랑도 콘도사에 거도다 거도 주구주사 요바서 지금 도다 대자마 대주고라라 망고자 두개 망고자라라 야야 대도 아니 소소 레 되게 너무 도som 대야도 다지 말이봐. 들라 투 되기도 와. 투 되기도 와다. 투사 대 투 되기도 와. 대해서 왔다 가자 지금 들 가서도 다들 코라를 가서도 가서도 자제 자다바 코고 노지 뭐지 다 자두고 뭐도스고 다 가서 비게 망보죠 톤 다녀고다 타마토한테 라라 동에 정화다 레미제 제법 취미사와 인사 랑그 레산의 용한테 열었다 야 토대가 열어 어떤데다 근데 가서도 근데 콘도사사지 미도승고 열어 왔다 돼
So what this is saying that like if someone is engaging in harm towards you or engaging in using negative speech or so on, that here that it can easily give rise to any of the three poisonous minds, and that to understand here that that would be the incorrect response or reaction in that situation, and want to understand that. And that's a suffering that the harm or the negative speech is causing is real, but it is that we have a much more intimate connection to that suffering than we care to admit. And that to understand this is very, very important. That that there is harm, that's not being denied. But what is being here suggested that anger is not the response to that harm. Whether it is harm in general or somebody harming you, that anger is just a bad attitude, a bad choice in situations like this. And patience in all its manifestations is the way to go, to cultivate that much more enlightened attitude, and to actually see the situation not as falling into anger, but rather an opportunity to really check our patience. That's very, very important, because actually, that harm and the one harming is not something that is self-governed. This is the thing, it's kind of like a rising independence upon. And indeed, we have to put it into the context of the fact that if a cause is being created, we cannot experience the result of a cause that we haven't created. So we have that intimate connection there to what's going on, and that cause itself will not simply disappear of its own accord just because we want it to. It will manifest as a result. And here it is now. Also, to understand that our ignorance of grasping at the true existence of a self is very much kind of like involved in how I'm reacting negatively to this situation. So when we have this eagerness to point a finger outside at this and that and the other thing and that person and so on in that situation, rather point it inwards, our inability to understand the karmic context of what's going on, and our ignorance of grasping at the true existence of a self. That's where the finger can be pointed to. And so it really kind of ultimately, comes down to really how much responsibility we are able and willing to take for our own actions. And it's not ever appropriate to be angry in a situation, even though, of course, harm is real. Harm is kind of happening, whether it's kind of in general or a specific beings doing it to us. But that's saying that we have that choice to make a much more enlightened choice about how we respond to that.
nobody 독답 탑시 가리네 지금 nobody 때는 콘로사나 지금 말을 쓴 거라면도 nobody 독답 탑시 안에 추다 투바 추다 뭐 내주다 투면 nobody 독에 탑시 또 너무 고요래 그러와 다들 서바 공에도 nobody 독에 탑 나나면 뭐 차대고 열와 그러와 서바 공스도 never 간가 키대베 계자 말와 서바 공스도 never 무트는 뭐야 탑시로 왔다 그러와 서바 먹으면 딜라 때는 레 녀바사는 무트는 never 용것도 와 서바 공스는 never 뭐야 탑시래 아니 서바 공네 아니 그 nobody 뭐야 탑시 셔바 아니 거기서 뭐이 내주다 tumba 토네 아니 거기 야 내가 그 저거거든 저래 아니 거기서 직념부 시작권에 셰래 딱그 nobody 뭐야 이게 탑시 가리네 지구로 와 지구고 요래 지구고 요래 다 타마 아니 배 탑시 싸웠는데 맞으나 배 nobody 용것도네 딜라 때는 콘도 마사와 지구로 해서 뭐 열어봤다 던다 데려왔다.
And so the meaning is, yes, that harm is real, harm will happen, but it's saying if we respond with anger, we're not actually really dealing with the actuality of the situation. So our response is to act in harmony with the actuality of that situation. And I'm saying that, patience has the means to be able to put your mind into that space, to be able to do so. And it's not saying that, patience means that no harm will ever arise. Patience is about how we respond when harm inevitably does happen, and that this is the important distinction to make, and that it is a very, very skillful tool we have so that we can avoid at all costs anger in any situation. And that here is saying that, the and whether we are kind of like responding in whole myriad ways, it all depends on how that situation arises, whether you can use kind words or whether you can use calming words and so on, or get yourself removed from that situation in all sorts of different ways. But it's saying that patience gives you multiple choice, but one of those choices will never be to respond or react with anger.
Yeah, yeah, got the 对明照完了，然后这个南就个团呢，然后这个俺们点过的呢，用谁个的？过呀，顾客看见呢，俺那把的用啥嘛的？因为呀，可是南老个三个点呢，俺那这个水巴当这个的药吧，这矿中马萨瓦钱呢，矿中马萨瓦，这个嘞这个讲把的人家给托把钱，第二呢，可能我们个想法的就把人把的西边头呢，人家给托把钱。因为呀，他说的，这个搞不到个，可能个说你把给马给吃到呀，这个咱们就跟那当上不点过，有的年不点过，用谁个的，可是，对嘴明着话，俺那这没看明着话，点在起了，地大特别个，俺他去搞的点过多，点用着，地大伢多，南老个什么点呢？俺那这个矿中马萨瓦钱。矿中马萨维等了，俺那这个的，可能呀让我们的用当的，我们个想法的就把这西边头呢，这来人家给推，是吧？人家给个啥的顾客越推，我的嘞，他没让我们不用过的，他没让我们不用过的，我的这个可是呢，让矿中想法的就买把人呢，咱们就要的，咱们就要的，俺那可是他没弄啊这个再推个的吧。咱们我就到哪了去？什么公司的？大概的现在接触是你妈的吧？什么公司的？对吧？什么公司的？让个三楼的，那现在马拉巴带队的是我要的，我的。讲把的人家各个马拉巴带队的。Okay, no problem.
And so that what to make that clear distinction, that we must never mistake patience as something whereby you simply do not do anything. You just kind of like sit there and don't react, don't respond. That in fact there are situations that within patience where you can manifest wrath in a situation, where you can be quite forceful in your response, depending on what you're facing. And that this then is kind of like to be understood, though, that really deep down, your attitude is still one of patience, that you have not lost your equilibrium. And that's very, very important, that there's still this, you're acting out of love, you're acting out of compassion. And that this is very important, that you are, seeing this as a kind of an important actual situation. You're that self-aware of really adding to your store of patience. And that, that in some situations it will require a very mediatory, kind and very calm, soft response. And then others, you will need something more forceful response. But inside, there is no change in the kind of the atmosphere or weather of your mind. and that it is one of calm, one of clarity. And that's very, very important. And that there is absolutely no shred or hint of anger. You know, one is kind of understanding that what is occurring here from the one who is harming is acting not out of their own volition. They're kind of not self-governed in this situation. And that therefore the appropriate response is one of compassion. And that, you know, in that sort of, in that kind of realm of patience, let's say, our intelligence remains clear and functioning and calm. And so there, of course, you know, will be a wide variety of different responses that one can take. But it's within the calm of patience that one's intelligence is best able to make the unmistaken choice as to what is the best response in that situation.
我等待印度，我这个告诉了这个告诉了让先你个了，安尼偏把的开始一下，我到南觉的点个话，南觉的点都告诉了，安尼告马诺这当然接头个话，但是有着看着是告诉了说吧讲。And country name is Samlo Tangore, Soba Kongore, Sigi, the Casa de Geshe, Dani Chambuko, Labja de Gete, Casa, Namju Jinga Jodarwa. Casa, Dunga, Tendo Meva Soya, Tapsi Chirwa. Dunga, Tendo Meva Sakaji, Meva Soya, Tapsi Chirwa. That is what that Tige de Casa de Mozu Water Batone. And Namju Jingi, and the Casa de Nyamjung Tene. And because of the Tunga Mevason, they are to Tangi, and Tabi, but it was more trouble chenny. More trouble chenny, and together count to do and Rangi Lane cat over jet. Lane catch over jet, the catch what did it.
And so really what one is able to kind of keep in perspective in these situations is what is the most beneficial response here for both oneself and the other in that situation. And so one is weighing up all of that and trying to make the unmistaken choices, but it's saying that within the kind of realm of patience, one has the best chance of making those unmistaken choices. So one kind of again is informing oneself of the great benefits of patience, as opposed to the great faults of anger. And that's kind of really kind of like the background of informing your decision making. And that you know, this advice here that we are following, these instructions, is coming down from these great bodhisattvas, and this is their heart advice, you know. And it really boils down to everything is a means of eradicating suffering. So that's the big picture. And so our little individual responses in here are kind of, how do you say, targeted at ultimately eradicating suffering, both for ourselves and for our opponent in that situation. And so from our own intelligence, we can call on our experience in that regard, and to kind of go say, what is here going to kind of diminish and eradicate the suffering in this situation? What is more likely to add to and increase the happiness of that situation? What kind of when we start to recognize this, recognize and gain, you know, some sense of expertise in this decision-making process, then we can more easily integrate it into our everyday practice.
我的他或者我那真那个捏吧一呢，如果变得如果可是我就哪怕三级的兄弟，那西边接的，老中间的西边接的，或者这个找他的人把什么下个多，当过特别简单的来的西来给推中个西来不是，安那特别短的了，安那这个日本习惯的接把简单，样来样多，三老当三中个西来不是个这个了，特别西来的。西巴的，安先到不是多，让个女把看不到。这西巴人呢，伢们要我接推，伢把要买的，是吧？伢把要买的，garanti要买的。但 삼중기 셋업 계속나 아니 딜라 아니 초 망분의 삼로단에 리베 제바체는 오다 팀도 조사민도 스ኛ바께어도 아니 그 냠린 거한테 되네 주두고도 와 티가자들 랑독의 셋업스기도 와 그러와 랑독의 셋업스도 퇴중의 셋업도 셋업의 야나 개개나 라마이나 다가자 얘나 산제가 송랍이나 다든데지네 아니 시네 하고 아니 디 소소 규들 교당도 말해 파트셔 잡도 그래 규들 교당도 뭐도 소소를 강한시 차원도 배주 당도 뭐도 다 가디 당도 그래서나 디 셰베 되는데 야는 양도 삼로다는 리과 시고는 제바체는 와다 팀도 조사면도 선데 아니 녀바녀도 디 랑도 고셔라스디 삼중고 셔랍스기요 다 되네다 고주온 요래 고주온 요래 와다 와 삼중고 셔랍체 그래. 아니 되네다 삼중의 셔랍 계획 된딜라 아니 꼴색주도 냠다샤데 아니 검중의 셔랍 승지 깨우고도 와. 그러와. 검중의 셔랍 승도 다 된도 아니 로다 오데레 오데레 와 오데레 데레 아니 데레 와다 진짜나 되나 또 밖에도 고주고도 와. 그러와. 오데레
So what is necessary here is to really grow our conviction, our sense of conviction about what is the right process. And that's here, you know, we can fall back on the ways in which we assimilate the information that we get from the great texts. So this begins with our learning, just the accumulation of the data of the teachings, and we gain what's called the wisdom arising from learning. And so this is just a very kind of like a surface level understanding, that it is not what's called self-generated wisdom. It's dependent upon the teachings themselves. It depends upon the guru who is teaching them, and that one hasn't really kind of like contemplated that information to gain conviction for oneself. So this comes next in line, and this is the wisdom arising from a contemplation, which is really analyzing all of that data from many different points of view, and so that you reach a conclusion, a firm conclusion for yourself to say, yes, it must be like this. This is the truth of the issue here. And so this is now self-powered information. This is a self-powered information. And at this point, that you're much more likely to put it into action, to integrate it into your life. And that's kind of much deeper, a deeper way of being able to assimilate the information. And so there is a third way of, a third wisdom, which is a wisdom arising from meditation, where you further deepen that sense of conviction into realization, so that now it is a natural integrated part of your action, of your behavior, and from moment to moment in your life. And so this is the way in which we should try to, in stages like this, deepen the information to gain the necessary conviction and to put it into action.
디 냠내 잡을라 다 강에 매바 중거와 좋아기기도 다 간제 와다데 데 인도 와데 저 공부시했다 다 수마 초완도배 고반에서 초와 수마 초완도배 고반에서 자와래 강게 강시 도자데 도바 리과 민세나 델라데나 동에나 군체 주도 미리
And so it's this process by which we apply the reasoning and to come at the issue from many different angles, to gain that sense of conviction, and that wisdom arising from contemplation and wisdom arising from meditation. That's so important for us to be able to then start to be able to integrate without problem, without resistance, and indeed with a great deal of enthusiasm and joy, because we've actually found out what it is, that this is true. This is kind of reliable a way of living. The next outline is a third outline, and it states the necessity of really reversing anger or stopping anger. And verse number 32 deals with this point. And it reads, if everything is unreal, like an apparition, then who is there to restrain what anger? Surely in this case, restraint would be inappropriate. So that's an objection. And then the answer, it would not be inappropriate because conventionally, I must maintain that independence upon restraining anger, the stream of suffering is severed.
원래 다들 가자 뭐부 탄자 란싱에 매바 있나 다 그러다 지나가 뭐부 탄자 란싱에 매바 있나 내는 지금 가서다 그 저기 방자다 nhiệm vụ kanji 똑바째서 다 간제제 다도 도토야 거라 요 말봐서 다 관계 nhiệm vụ 관계 똑바자데 저 밑에도 똑바를 봐 민시나서 다 간제제 그 란싱의 주바 매바 인자데 그 지금 가서다 콜라 저 가서다 다 간제제 콘도 도스긴 다버다 콘도 방스긴 다버다 로다 간제 데네 탑시 거라 요 말봐서 민시나 오다 코랑 민두가 왔을 거다 진짜 오다 다들 된대래서 란싱의 동바들라 미리과 밑에 가서 란싱의 동바 임바 인자 뒤좀 생길 때네 오다들 탑시 민두 세버 란싱의 동바 임바 인자 딜라되는 고급도 연구 열었어 좋아 란싱의 동바 임바 인자 딜라되는다 반이 란싱의 두배 동바 인자 라 반자다 가서 방와제 다 가서도 가서도 녀모다 디 nhiệm vụ 这个的大概让新个马主办人家第二天的他是用过药的是，可就见错吧，见那可的大切图个药的吧，但让新个主办人家大概他是可能用过药嘛的，但让新个马主办的他顾客本是上过的是，第二天呢，错了说吧，녀모吧东安南，军车吧切图的是，可是可个。로아다 크게 코디 용에데 교계 망고치를 따는 용도 교계에게 가오는 코 용도고 말아. 교인체와 교와 되베치로 다 된데 임바서 아티 그 된데 임바 인사 먼저 컨트롤 nhiệm vụ 된 거래. 로아서 컨트롤 nhiệm vụ 된 거래. 되게 동에서 그래서 가서 컨트롤 코나 용에데 규다 깨려 되는 용도도 와서 규다 깨려 되는 용도 여바 인자 아니 콜라 고급 용도랬어. 다 규다 깨려 맞에 그 라운이 좁아 있는데 그 탑시 코나 요 말아 봤어. 안데서 그 유다 깨라 줘봐지 아니 가라들라 딱 가서 국업 상부치 됐어. 그럼
So the objection comes in and saying that if all phenomena lack any inherent existence, and then there can be no nothing to abandon. Or no antidote that can restrain the situation. And that here, to talk about restraining, it would be incorrect and inappropriate. And then the response comes in and says, it's actually because, it follows that because phenomena lack any inherent existence, it is not inappropriate to propose what we are proposing. In fact, it's because phenomena lack inherent existence that it is possible for antidotes to be applied, and for that to whatever it is to be abandoned. It makes it possible because it's saying that phenomena arise in dependence upon cause and condition. And this is why we have the opportunity to do something about the anger and so on that needs to be abandoned. If things were as you propose, that that they were kind of fixed and not and inherently existent, then that opportunity would no longer be there. And so it's here is true kind of understanding that we see that that the continuum, we assert that the continuum of suffering and of the mental afflictions such as anger and so on can be cut or can be severed because of the fact that they lack any inherent or objective existence.
Tene is a quarter round of Majuba singing to get a condition which is a gun. That was a round of Majuba, never negate Dona Gomato. Round of Majuba is Tonba Nis, Tonba Nigite, Dona Gomato, the Tonba Nis to the Kan Yomaris Kejamara, Tonba Nis to go round the Juba Yomata, round the Juba Yomera, that to down because a tenant you want to draw something to. Round the Juba Mare said to call maybe to my round the Majuba Yina, regret Jordan and Manova Shindy Jimba Yina, that regret Jordan North not the Tara, round the Majuba, bad to the something. Round the Majuba said, but Tongba Ni said the knees in the Donat Castle, Tongba Ni said the call, that call, then the Joama the Drosa Yomaris, Shama Yomaris were. Could to them go to. Then it's called round the Juba Yomaris, the call. That to down the carriers or then the Juma the Yomaris. Round the Maju so that call the doctor the ten Juma to go over. Then the Juma said the call Cargo so round the Juba Marias and the Coco Yorwa. Cocas a chicken and a chicken to the.
So that's in this scenario here saying that that things being established as self-governing and that they are empty of existing in this way. So what that person rejecting is mistaking emptiness for something that does not exist at all. But emptiness does not refer to nothingness. Emptiness refers to an object being empty of existing in a particular way as a self-governing entity or a self-inherently existing entity. And so this is what is being implied here. And indeed, what is implicitly implied in the fact that phenomena are empty of existing as a self-governing entity is that the phenomena therefore must arise independence, independence on cause and condition, etc. And so if one follows the reasoning correctly, this is the conclusion that one comes to. If one follows the reasoning incorrectly, and so that if one arrives at the idea that emptiness equals nothingness, then one has is mistaken in their reasoning. And so the very fact that phenomena arise in dependence it automatically means that they cannot be established as self-governing entities. So it's kind of saying that if one exists, if it exists in this way, it can't possibly exist in the other.
Tongba ni sedata, tongba ni sedu, ni sedata, tongba se rawane tuba tongba se ni sedu ta tene jongame do drosa yomare se kongo do tene jongame do drosa yomare se kedi yoba ina tene jongame do drosa mindu se.
And so here, the etymology of the word for emptiness is in Tibetan dongba ni, and that the dongba refers to the fact that the phenomena are empty of existing objectively or in a self-governing way, and the ni refers to the fact that therefore they can only arise in dependence. And so it's kind of within that term, you have the fact of the two diametrically opposed ways of existing. The dongba, that they are empty of existing inherently, objectively, etc. And the ni, that they therefore must arise in dependence.
Then is a round of Matuba Janita, Cotene Junga into and then Junga shadow and Kojiga Jujamango Tona, then yonder and Koa Shatu Yore. 타바 샤투고 요래 탐제 겸바 샤투고 요래 아니 가서 탐제 겸바 두에게 유된데 들어왔다 지가서 년종 장세 양다베다 지서 파진 돌아서 왔다 라바이나 오 탐제 겸바 고마도고 유데데데데데 데다 되면 제우 탐제 겸바서 용투에 로아 아니 저 아니 와들자 코아다 냥데다 이거 가시 가서데 아니 꽤마버지 샤투고 요래 다 라완도 두바스도 그 가야 샤투고 요마다 라완도 두바이나 코저 라완도 줍주도 투바시 주고 줍주도 투바 주고도 아니 배 주가 저는 줘야 매길 샤고 요래 봐 데레자 동반 얘기 돈다 심발라 데레 그 각자 다 가서 담바 줍소나 아니 줍다한테 근데 줍고서 뒤 하고에 계시 못 싫어 로아 담바 줍소나 줍다한테 근데 줍고서 줍다한테 담바 줍아이나 다 요한테도 매겠지 아니 거두이네 요되겠지 데레시 요구고 요라 다 데레시 요가는 거 탑시 가요 마다 요다 요말 콜라 로아 다 요다 요차도 콜라 가서도 콜 라와 메베 따된 거 요르바 로아 그 주다 게임 먹고 저 라리고 따된 거 요르바 어떤 데레 그 지금 가서데 되게 가서데 되게 산제베 다 산제 좀 된데 그 뭐유게 내주 시그널 맞대 와르마도 얘들 산제가 써와 말해 디 가래서나 디 가서데 다 인지 깨면서 내절 로래 다 내절 로 다가라래 뭐유 내주 돼. 딱 뭐유 내주 돼. 나라도 신경 요마를 산제게다 캠바 될라 때는 냠용 되는 송어로 봐.
And so that the lack of any self-powered or self-governingness or entity it automatically implies that phenomena arise in dependence. And indeed, this is in fact, what makes all possible. That the phenomena of a continuum of cyclic existence itself, of liberation, of the omniscient state of enlightenment, of renunciation, of the development of the mind of enlightenment, of the practice of the six perfections, all is made possible because they are phenomena that arise in dependence. And so if phenomena existed as something that was self-governing, self-powered, inherent, etc., nothing could be posited. Nothing could be posited because no change could be possible, and that, that when within emptiness is the recognition of the object to be refuted. And that is kind of like, you're refuting how something is established. So if it's established, you're refuting that something can be established as self-powered, as inherently existent, as objectively existent, and you're refuting that because that it is impossible for reality to function in any way if phenomena did exist in that way. Therefore, by refuting the object to be refuted, one is saying that this is a sign that phenomena actually arise in dependence. This is the only way that they can reside, and they can abide, and they can exist. This makes things possible. And when the Buddha was around, of course, he did not come up with this as something new, because this is a natural law. This is the way things are, and this is the actual reality of life. And what the Buddha did was, we did not understand this. The Buddha understood this and elucidated the point. But it is certainly not new. It is the way in which things are. This is the natural law of reality.
아니바 돈 두안에서 자와래 대외 장 자양로 미리 제바 통조나 된대 견래 주도시 대다 손대 대원뉴 개대 랑게 줍조나 아니 가야 동에 미되베 류젠단의 탐제장 술란 동에 중미 주시
And in the second of the main objectives was the main kind of the main the outlines is that it's a summary of the points gone previously, and the following two verses included that. That's verse number 33 and 34, which read as, "So, when seeing an enemy or even a friend committing an improper action, by thinking that such things arise from conditions, I shall remain in a happy frame of mind. If things were brought into being by choice, then, since no one wishes to suffer, suffering would not occur to any embodied creature."
뭐다 로다 되래 되는 거네 좀제 대회나 다 좀제 대회 임바 인자 거지 잠 그래서 잠자 that's 자보이네 자보이네 다 레레 미리베 네바 자바이나 소소로 되바 메겐게 네바제 자바 통화주나 delarawa make sata di kora nyomu be shawan jone chigu yobade moto ba chiguras rawan mege nyomu be tende kele judo she teta an samlo tang tu ba chigures de wan no de ta ka semma tu ba chen de go de de mi tu ba so ba ko ba chawo sa da so ba ko ba chagures wo so ba ko ba chagures ta ke de ta de me ba chen ro da ka sa de me ba chen ta kan ja jigo 게다 라왕게 게데서 랑게 좁다다 그 라왕도 되바 장게 전 소소 간도도 주바이나 주바이나 주바이나니 아니 semje 수인 바이나야 동해 미되베 동해 미되 류젠다니 탐제장 수라야 동해 중화 미주로서 근데 얘는 강가라 동해 미두고 잔자래 텐데서 동해 코라 용해 코라 메근서 책으로 술아야 동해 중화 미주로 샤바 오차 다 간제 지금 나한테 몇 번째네 듣고 주망 주제 망보질 때는 용되게 여버지 로 마리베 꾸넬라 레사 안디 온게다 간제 지금 아니 지금 용되기도 와 용되기도 와 아니 파조데 안수 몇밖에 없어서 직도자 라고 섬사적은 전에 양권 용몽원도 중원도 소소 변에 잡어 지바 있네 셈예부 지바 있네 셈예부데 양코나 대화 강마가 저기 양 직도자 마야다 양 지금 그 용몽 상황就다다 참고전 대화 있네 가마 가시지는 난 동안나보다 직도자 배주 다도 용되기도 와 그러면 용되기도 와 용몽 중원도 중원도 란진제 군의 랑도 아니 소소를 미대와 좀 남자 직도자 배주 남주 도자 대 그 용되기도 와 아니 소소를 가보 매개지는 그 다가랑래 거기 가보 매개 용해지 아니 코랑이 되바 마가지 존에 아니 가보 매개지는 그 너밖에 섬을 용되기도 와. 그 라와지는 용하지 뭐도 와. 요금도 와. 어떤데 근데 뭐저 거서 검토 받지 그래서 그때 대다 단제 그 소소 지가서 대다 되바 요반에서 가서다 가서 다 가자 주게 맞대 받잖아 다시가 라완에 된 주바이는 심제 수인 바이는 그 대화 되고 동에 메되고 맞아 강가 약부 장자 연구다 된데 레몬도 와서 거 봐. 이 대에 약부 되고 열때 메되 동에도 모트를 연구도 가서는 란제제 군내라는 연구되고 열 봐. 요러셔 란제제다는 경험을 내다 아니 제기 개망 보질 때는 연구되기도 와. 어떻게 된 거 쳐봐 지고 그랬어 뭐. 셔봐 보셔.
And so here it's saying here that because of these reasons that have gone before, then should an enemy or even somebody close to us, a friend, act in an improper way and engage in harm, and we are witness to that, then because we have this understanding of their acting under the influence of mental affliction and therefore not in control, not self-powered or self-governing, that we are not put out by their behavior. our peace of mind, our happiness is not disturbed, and we can remain within the realm of patience. This is kind of important. And then it says also that, you know, if, as it says in verse number 34, if things were brought about by our own choice, if we had actual autonomy to choose how we were, then of course we would choose to be happy, and we would certainly not choose to suffer, you know, and that this would be very much kind of the top of our list at all times. But the fact that things are not like that, this shows us that we're not in control of these elements, that things don't occur merely by chance, and that in fact the suffering that we don't want is very much kind of part and parcel of our everyday life, and that and so it kind of, this is not presenting an accurate picture of how life unfolds, and that we understand that through our own self-cherishing and our own mental afflictions, that we have created the causes for our own unhappiness and suffering. And so these are things that, again, don't occur, that can't occur automatically, as if they were self-powered, and that again everything arises in dependence upon cause and conditions.
동해 미드베 루젠다다 탐제자 술라야 동해 중앙 미주로서 술라야 동해 중앙 연구 말때 얘네야 된대레모도 동해 칸데도 동해 찍저거 저거 동해 지용도 동해 찍저거 연구도 되네 예전 갈아도다 동해 쇼저도 동해 주데 마시는데 아니 가짜는 갈아 연구해서 why is 뭐도 디와드 레고도 와 좋아 디와드 레고도 와 가르쳐서 그 중앙망원도 son사도 그 제벌을 라와면서 용되게 열거다 아니 제벌도 소소가 다른 뭐좀 연구요 통과를 다 교도 소소 통과요 말이야 마동아 인생 것도 디와드 연구도 그래 얘네다 문에잖아 제보 된데 영화데 제보데 죽가르샤 수사고 다 제보 된데 영화에 주 된데 가만 것도 son해 중가만 것도 son하데 제보 매는 미중 제와 좀 되어서 뭐 쳐고도 안디 뭐 쳐봐이나 아니 와이스데 연구 말에 아니 겨왕 가말에 가서데 녀바니에 토야지 연구도 와 그것은 제보 된데 중앙만 것도 마서는 제보도 영화에 걸어 요 말에 매는 미중에 제와 좀 되어 다 중앙만 것도 son하데 소소 심제샤라 레냐 바사완데 내 먹보제 연구래라 아니 제 다른야 어느 소소게 지금 지다민자와 연구 초그래 아니 삼로 단다민자와래 연구 초그래 그거 뭐 쳐야지도 된데게 용해게 동해 된데 별별 컨트롤 안 쏘고 된데 이제 컨트롤 용해데 아니 가르레샤 주 된데 좀 것도 쏘아이나 아니 제부 그 맞춰 왔잖아요 용해데 제부 된데 용해데 제부디 주가르샤 째줘도 다 주된데 중에 주된데 사샤스 제로와 는 책이 견데레샤 아니 사회 주된데서 뭐 쳐용 거지 연구로 왔다 어때들
And so, yes, we have this, if, you know, as it says in verse number 34, if things were brought into being by choice, then since nobody wishes to suffer, suffering would not occur to any embodied life or any embodied creature. But of course, the fact of the matter is that suffering does arise, whether it's our choice or not. Suffering is part and parcel of our lives, and so you know, we rail and rant against that suffering and ask, you know, why me? Why is it that I have to go through this and so on? And all we're doing is focusing on the result of that path of karma, and that what we need to be asking is, you know, what are the causes that have led to this point, led to this ripening of suffering for me now, and that you know, this result obviously had a previous cause, and that if we have that understanding that there's this intimate connection between the cause that I myself created and the suffering that I myself am experiencing now, then it'll be less likely that I'll be you know, whinging with this why me question. But I will actually start to gain some conviction about this path of karma, conviction in relation to the law of cause and effect, and that this negative karma that I created is why I am experiencing what I am today. This is the ripening of that cause, and so I have to look into what kind of causes could possibly give rise to this kind of suffering result, and then to really start to target those causes and to avoid doing anything like that might give rise to that kind of result. And so you make this situation into something much more valuable for yourself.
지금 가서도 대부피 다보지 거고요나 규익가라 삽사 지구도 규익가라 삽사 제마도나 아니 대부피 다보도 연구면 도와 좋아 연구면 도와 근데 임바 인자 빼는 거서 신가답게 이나래 아니 매도 답게 이나래 근데 신바 이나 거기 매도 비다보 결라 매도게 가서도 사변 비다보지 세고도 아니 매도디 게투사게 아니 저다 되게 다다다 하고도 아니 근데 내가 아니 뒤주 다다 신고도 아니 대답사회절라 아 거기 지가 매도들 뇌에게 매도의 신가 뇌가 잘라서 같아서 매번 쏘고도 딱 이제 그 망보 지금 tuy네 아니 다만 매도 비다고 깨고도 신가 비다고 깨기도 와 그러와 다 교견 차장 상서도 아니 대부 매도 아니나 아니 로도 아니나 들라 콜라 나오면도 와 그 유드 청 맞아라 라리기도 왔다 저당 같이 지자래 컨트롤 인반에 세상이나 대자이나 다 타바다 탐제 쳐봐이나 네가 그 줄을 땡고 근데 그 저당 집어 지자 차대고 요봐.
So therefore, when we need to see that the results that we experience should automatically turn our focus to what are the causes that have given rise to those results. And we look at it in terms of an external cause and effect relationships for, the planting of crops and the planting of flowers and so on. And to go, okay, what are the causes that give rise to, good harvests in these contexts? And so one is that you have good quality seed, of course, you've prepared the ground beforehand, you have the environmental conditions, you have the right time for sowing, you have good heat, etc., etc. And all of these contribute, as the causes and the conditions that give rise to the result. And so in that way, you can, and if you do things right, you can look forward to a good crop of flowers or other crops, and that you can understand that they don't simply arise independently. They're not self-governing entities, but they require all this care, all this kind of these causes and conditions that are put in place prior to the results ripening. And that this is exactly the same. And when it comes to the anger that we experience, the suffering that we experience, indeed, also the love, compassion, liberation, the state of enlightenment, everything is within that context of cause and effect relationship.
어디래 그렇구나 그 사회 규칙 연구를 엔들 현지적인 다 되는 망부 정도도 어떻게 건가 규칙 찾아 조사소나 제보를 하면 누가 되는 장어서 컨트롤다 되자다 세다 건가 지고래 거기에 규칙 찾아 조사소나 아니 콜라 라와 연구면 누가 다 라와도 거기서 규칙 마상 와서 해들 아니 뒤가를 켜봐 누가 규차장 사서 거라와면 도가 다고 요게 조단데 찍고 찌자래 치다 난게 찍고 찌자래다 되자다 셔다스도 그 난게 기자주와 아니 치 그 거유게 내다 되게 대부 조단다 난로 조단 찍고 찌자래 찍고 찌자 용은 되게 도와
So that we this is the way all everything actually functions and works. You have the substantial cause and the cooperative conditions, and that they gives rise. That once they are in place, then a result, manifests or is ripened inevitably. It's not something that is self-powered in any way, and that That's important to understand that this is the same with regard to all phenomena. That the anger that we experience and so on is something that has arisen on the basis of cause and conditions, and it's the result of cause and conditions that are aiming to attain liberation and the omniscient state of enlightenment is something that can only arise in dependence upon the causes and conditions that we lay down, and once they are, then it has no choice but to ripen. It's not something that has a choice of its own. It's always, everything is arising in dependence upon. And so this is something that we have, this is the same for whether it's inner phenomena, like our control of our anger, our development of patience and so on, and all outer phenomena, like the crops that we sow in our fields and so on. So this is something that we must understand and accept.
다 된대 용에다 되게 쉬워하는지 거 되게 그가 라완도 마주와 인자 거 되게 용기도 거 라완도 마주와서 거 때내 중앙 인자 아니 거 저거 교계 민자와라 때내 대부 민자와 용되기도 와.
And so this speaks to what we've just been discussing, that because phenomena lack this self-governing aspect, that therefore they must arise in dependence. And so you can have then from that causal beginning the variety of different results coming out of that. So let's leave it there then for today.
다 된전 랑게 뒤나 라마 투베 공부 세다바데 공부 양조지 세조잡 안 되는지 양조지 kom 라마 투베 공부 kom 좋아 어떻게지.
And so then we can bring our attention to the figure of the Guru Manindra Buddha and the space in front.
근데 라마 투베 공부 나라라 신배바지 공부시.
And the Guru Manindra Buddha is completely, again, lacking any inherent existence. And ourselves also completely lacking any inherent existence.
무슨 나라라 심해봐 삼로 땅에 코나 나라라 심해봐 삼로 땅에 코나야 나라라 심해봐 삼도.
And even the thought of ourselves lacking any inherent existence is also lacking any inherent existence.
어떤데 달래되네 대가소래 rata 제 감성 좋아를 저 가밖에 와 있는 동에 쳐봐 중에 교회 쳐봐 두제 그 동에 그래 맞아 버려 하던데 쳐봐 두제 그 동에 맞아 버렸다 쳐봐 두제 그 동에 여사바 젤라 다 못네 다 동에 그래서 딱 토스즈는 완남에 봐도 코대시래 그 이대매 맞아 코대 다 되게 되지도 그 동에 그라실에 맞아 봐 인바 인사 아니 되게 봐줘 연주지 공부시 되는 연중 그 공부시에 로디 예바시에 연중 예배 로디 알랑게 주고 뼈마다 맞게 봐질 교수 선서 공부시.
So then reflecting on all the three realms of existence and the fact that all of these realms are in the nature of suffering, be it the suffering of suffering and the suffering of change, and indeed these both are induced by the pervasive suffering, that we never get beyond that pervasive suffering whilst in cyclic existence, whilst in these realms. And then the really powerful urge for us to attain liberation from that state of suffering, definite emergence from cyclic existence, that renunciation being symbolized by the lotus mandala seat on our own crown.
어디로 고봤어? 어디다 되지? 아니 되네. 다 가자 지난 거 쳤건데 지금 봐 있네요. 아니 거기 저 뭐이게 내서라 라완에 두바 쓰는데 백가자 찍어서 둘 삼매 받지. right? Do something about it. I want to do some compassion. I want to do something to such a compassion.
And so reflecting also on all inner and outer phenomena, lacking any self-governing existence, that even having none of that self-governing existence, even at the atomical level, and they're merely imputed.
What that then gave a lot of Rangichibo permitted and you make him with Yakon, some compassion.
And that mindset of having conviction in that gives rise to the sun disk analysis on our crown.
That the day in Bazaar, I wanted to do some Yinsa, Taka Denejumare. Denejuma Yinso, oh, Ta Taba some Tom that Jigimento, Tamjaki Combat to be again, cook up to. That the day in Bazamatu, the Sawan in the Jimento, Sim Tamjaka to the Sanja Command, you want you to Matana, Jigimento, Toba Jigi, some compassion. The Lord Combato Shechen, and then they you want you to Toba Jigi, Sabag Lodi, and then they get Dumbati, and Davigin go Yakan Junior, and you met the Nesso, Chiwan, you met the Nesso, some compassion.
And then the fact of then this all phenomena rising in dependence gives us that opportunity not only just to attain the state of liberation, but in fact to move on to the state of enlightenment itself, and to see the necessity of being able to develop that mind of enlightenment, how important that is to attain the state of enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings, and to quickly be able to do that. We make that firm resolve that I myself will be the one to remove all sentient beings' suffering, etc. And from that, then the mind of enlightenment, symbolized by the moon mandala, is situated on our crown.
Pandesara, Lama Ramboche, Target, Joe Pemeto, Kadishimo, Kusu to Jumuro, so Sunday Chen, Sunday Rimba Sumjan, Sunday Tambekaso, and March, Nivekaps, Subeka, the Tendushina, Sanjay Kumamato, what the Jesus Sonsu, Son Kako, then the Yana to Mendeta Javapi.
Then the mandala, the supplication verse, so glorious and precious root Guru, come take a lotus and moon seed placed here on my crown. Keep me safe in your kindness, bestow on me the attainment of body, speech, and mind, is recited thrice. At the end of the first recitation, the figure of the Guru Manindra Buddha begins the journey from the space in front to our crown. At the end of the second, the Buddha has arrived at our pre-prepared seat. And at the end of the third, we have the certainty that the Buddha will remain until we attain the state of enlightenment. And we rejoice at this point, and something really special, and offer the seven-limbed prayer plus the mandala.
What did it that then? Yanjong Yanjong to Combashi, right? Comes to Georgia with Tungal Media, Tungal Rashi, but Combashi, Yabajong Yanjong to Combashi, they're running the Pema, then the Lord Rangijo, New Pema Tabia to Juso, some such. Then Chinanga China Yundega to do some Yomaris, a quarter of Combashi, they told Semsha, and then they and the Kachakazan and it, what is it, Tombani gave a lottie, and you make him when Yakon. And Rani Pematama gave it down to Neso, then it seems that Tamjaka to Sanja Kuba New, to Matan Tomato Toba G, Sansa Kumbashene, Kumbashe, and then they gave Gaza de Gasoleta to Bate, and Daviji Yako, Joso, Sansa Pandeta, Lama was a Taganiga, the Kuso to Jumuto, so the Chen, Tambuka so much, Nivaka, Subaka, Sanja Kumamato, but the Cheso Sonso, so the Koako.
So again, we again contemplate on the suffering nature of cyclic existence, and how we cannot get beyond the pervasive suffering in cyclic existence until we attain liberation. So we gain that sense of definite emergence, of definite renunciation, and in that thought, then we gain, we symbolize by the lotus mandala seed, now placed at our heart center. And again, through contemplating how all inner phenomena and outer phenomena lack any objective existence, and that they are merely imputed by thought, and trying to use a placement meditation for momentarily on that mere negation, the object of negation. This produces the sun disk mandala seat again at our heart center. And then looking into that dependent nature, how phenomena all rise in dependence, we gain that special intention of really being determined to attain the state of enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. How I must do this as quickly as possible. This mind of enlightenment is symbolized by the moon disk mandala seed. And then the invocation verse again, of glorious and precious Guru, come take your glorious and moon seed placed here at my heart. Keep me safe in your kindness, bestow on me the attainment of body, speech, and mind. At the end of the first recitation, the figure of the Guru Buddha starts the journey down from the crown chakra into the central channel. At the end of the second, they have arrived at our pre-prepared seat. And at the end of the third recitation, we have again the certainty of the Buddha remaining until we attain the state of enlightenment. And again, we rejoice at this possibility.
아니 되네 라는 데 남준닝 내단이 이제 배만 가지고 이랬을 내가 도저가 생각을 좀 가져 뒤에 타고도 뜸배 생각 다에도 오면은 다에도 오면은 무슨 거는 되네 주제 잡아야 순간 오마라바자 나디디도 오마라바자 무슨 거 되네 땐데가 순간 오면 예다만 마샤만나 있어 되네 무슨 거 거기가 되지 공부시 아니 라기 어때 공부시
And then the petals of the lotus fold over and are sealed at their tips by a white five-pronged Vajra. That package then is surrounded by three mantras. The name mantra of Shakyamuni Buddha in a clockwise direction, the mantra of Manjushri in an anti-clockwise direction, and the mantra of dependent origination in a clockwise direction.
어디르죠? 단 랑닝이 위해서 배만 닝이 위해서 라마샤자 생게 내바데 구송토레 위해서 빠도 매버트 랑게 집어내 간디고 발라 위해서 아니 토마면 디바데 개바도야 아니 지가소레 제가 미게 주본 거 추전다 개발라 소바 세다 생가마 대가 토마면 봤어 다 간제 제가 가나마다 라신 가나마 내바 컨디션 바다 쳐서 삼사 공부시 되네 지금 소소 답에 도박가 자주서 발라바다 파다 말라 먹고부터 저번 조서번 먹을 먹은 선전 레벨 레기버서 돈나 토레 답에 계속 줘 내가 근데저 싸워지만 최대한 생각만 통하면 근데저 싸워는 바 사람들 답아 중소 삼사죠 랑게 가서다 샘주게 때도 딱 가서다 dim니 바차도 잡아 장시 딱 봐줘 다시 중소 삼사죠 아니 하도도 다 가서데 지금 랑게 최 타치바 용알라 아니 루긴 계제데 루긴 나자 생고 동에 지금 루긴 나자 생고 동에 주시 코만에 와 살롱 틀레 기억 근데 쇼바는 막 장졌다 하도는 뉴도 산제 고마타발라 교연 치죠 타면나시에서 타면나시 교연 탐졌다는 가능타자 딱바라서 바지 차도 야고 쉬고 중소 선도 공부자
So again, at this point, the light begins to emanate from the body, speech, and mind of the Buddha within the lotus petals, permeating through every cell of our body and mind, from the crown of the head to the soles of the feet, and then purifying all of the negativities and obscurations that we have accumulated since beginning this time, and particularly focusing on the negativities of non-abiding and the ethics of refraining from the 10 non-virtues, all the negativities we have accumulated in this life, in previous lives, right back to beginning this time, of all the naturally occurring negativities that we have done, or all those activities proscribed by the Buddha, of any infractions of our Pratimoksha Bodhisattva or tantric vows, of showing disrespect to our parents, up to our gurus, of again the negativities that we have engaged in this life, in the previous life, in the life previous to that, even at the level of imprint, that the very imprints of these negativities again have been completely purified. Again, we look into all negative imprints that could give rise to sickness in the body, disease of the body, or the suffering of the mind that would prevent us from engaging in perfect spiritual practice. All these are completely purified. All the imbalances in the four elements of the channels, the winds and the drops, and all of these are completely and utterly purified. In particular, that which prevents us from being able to quickly proceed to enlightenment, that of ordinary appearance, that is completely purified and replaced by pure appearance.
소소 시도터 롱의 년에 라마 샤자스 고대 현지지 괜찮아 소소들의 라마 샤자스 고를 교수 삼사차 소소 시도 스트레 셈의 년에 라마 샤자스가 두대 현지지 괜찮아 소소 셈의 라마 샤자스가 토를 교수 삼사차 랑게 롱아 유서 라마 샤자스 고소도 오야마 교수 삼사차 교수 삼사차 딜라테네 대화중 대외 동바트 대도 니스메 이시 교수 삼사차 란네사가 네데 네고 견타자 Then
through the combination of my own more subtle wind acting as the substantial cause, together with the body of the Buddha acting as the cooperative conditions, my own body is transformed into the enlightened body of a Buddha. And then through the combination of my own more subtle mind acting as the substantial cause, together with the mind of the Buddha acting as the cooperative conditions, my own mind is transformed into the enlightened mind of Buddha. And I see now how my body, speech, and mind are inseparable from the body, speech, and mind of an enlightened being. I rejoice at this point and experience the bliss which combines with voidness, and I abide in the wisdom of non-dual bliss and avoidness. The place I am in also is transformed of all faults and becomes the enlightened abode of an enlightened being.
대 두갈래 라마 샤자스가 빠도 매버 쫓네 아니 감성가 심지 탐제가 장다냐 뭐 파쫓네 아니 감성가 심지 레레네 라마 샤자스가 차상와 레레 아니 저 가서 팀발라 때네 아니 대다 단제 계제가 라마 샤자스가 구속도 뭐 이메 교수서 대다가 내서가 뇌의 견 단제는 라마 샤자스가 다베신도 교수 삼사차 뭐다 심지 탐제가 또 타지마 중에서 님한테는 두투수 손을 가고 아니 심지 탐제 산제가 살아 거봐 대두게 그 소소 개와 가르사바 대두베치의 개와 가르사바 대두가 소소의 제바가 유대는 좀 뒤상 요마네 서서 공부시 대 뒤상에 방게바니 디 동바디 대화제 대도니스면 시켜서 서서 공부시
And then seeing myself as the fully enlightened being, inseparable from the body, speech, and mind of the Shakyamuni Buddha, and also lacking any inherent existence, I send out light rays equal in number to all the beings of all the three realms of existence. And as the light dissolves into them, they completely arise as fully enlightened beings, and that they places that they are in are completely purified of all fault and become the enlightened abodes of enlightened beings. And this is something I can completely rejoice in. Today is the day in which I've been able to lead all the sentient beings to that state of enlightenment. How wonderful that is. And I understand that the state of the place that I have led them to, the virtue that has facilitated that, and myself as the agent of that virtue, all completely lack any objective existence, are completely imputed by thought. And that this gives rise to that understanding of an emptiness that brings forth a bliss combining with voidness, and I again abide in the wisdom of non-dual bliss and voidness.
단다 삼로 단다 매바 이제 거나 삼로 단은 운에 거나 된데다 내라고 지어 말봐 이나야 단다 삼로 땅원에 시 운에 거나 대다 된지 두베게 아니 규르 규와쇼스 아니 대다 주알다 소소 산제 공부 통고도 산제 소소 산제 그 동바 토발라 아니 돈이 니지 닝보지가 람큐라 깨고로 다 된데 이마 인자 다 소소게 다 가르치고도 소소고 전화 사나 통나다 내단 근래 샤바이나디 돈이 니지 닝보지가 람큐라 깨베게 아니 튕겨도 좋아쇼스 뭐지 튕겨도 좋아든 게 제토바 지금 제토바 되는 아니 라마샤자스가 징길랍도스 스코마셰네 왔다 가자 타마 지가 소소 지가소데 다지 타마 치바이네 치와디야 돈이 니지 닝보지가 람귤라 깨베 튕겨도 좋아쇼 왔다데 왔다지 딱 뭐지 왔다지.
So, of course, this is operating at the level of imagination and aspiration. It can't be so easy. And yet, I make sure to dedicate as sincerely as I possibly can, whatever merit that we have accumulated there to be able to attain enlightenment as quickly as possible. And that, to really concentrate on in every action that I am doing, no matter what it is, that I am able to imbue the motivation for those actions with my understanding of emptiness and the mind of enlightenment, the mind of compassion, and that may all the conducive conditions for my being able to do that be present at every single moment, and that O Guru Deity, please bless me to be able for this to be so. And that, and really, even at the very end, when I am about to die, may there be no other thought but to die with that motivation of the emptiness and the mind of enlightenment, to make sure that it is laying down the causes to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all.
Om Boy Jan Be Yang
Gong Ken Ken Be Tzu Ken Tong Ga
Lo
Lu
San
San
Dai
Dai
Be
Be
Sha
Sha
Lai
Lo
So
Wan
De Me Me
Me Me Me
Me
Chen Chen
Om Boy
Jan
Jan Be Yang Gai
Gong
Jan
Ken
Be
Ken
Tu
Tzu
Jai
Ken
Tong
Tong
Gai Ba
Ga
Lo
Lo San
San Dai
Dai
Be
Be
Sha
Sha
Lai So Wan De.
You are Avalokiteshvara, great treasure of compassion, not aimed at true existence, and Manjushri, master of flawless wisdom, as well as Vajrapani, destroyer of hordes of demons without exception. Sankapa, crown jewel of the sages of the land which knows Rosa and Jakpa at your feet, I pay respect.
That's all.